Hello, everyone, and welcome back to College Football Corner. It is Conference Champion Week. Kevin Walsh and Jersey Joe Archino here to break everything down. Before we get into the pick'ems and some of the news also with some coaching changes and confirmations, let's talk about the top four. It goes Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Washington. Any problems for you?
I don't think so. I think in a perfect world, you would have Michigan at that 4 spot because let's face it, Michigan, in Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, those are the 4 best teams, but you can't take anything away from Washington. Most likely, they're the ones who are going to end up with that 4th spot, and they've had a great year. It's just realistically in my perfect world, and unfortunately, my perfect world can't be what the college football playoff ends up being, but I do think that it's pretty much set, and that's what we're going to have, and it's worth what it is.
I think you make a valid argument in that Michigan is probably the better team, but Washington has earned that spot. And if they get this win over Colorado, that's one of Michigan's also their best win on the season as well, up against Colorado. I think it's come down to those 5 teams, the 4 that we have plus Michigan. We'll get into our pick'em zone, kind of expand on that idea. We want to talk about some of these coaching changes as well. One that came as confirmation, Ed Orgeron, the apple of my eye, staying put at LSU. What do you think about that decision?
Well, look, I think it's one of those things where he's a guy where he looks like LSU. He talks like LSU. He is LSU, and I think it was a great decision. I was really happy he got the job because he's done enough to get that job, to secure the permanent head coaching spot there. And look, the players there obviously like him. Everywhere he's ever been, he seems to be a favorite with them. And if he could connect with the players, if he could win those tough games down there, I don't think there's any downside to doing it. I'm glad he got it, and he's a perfect fit there.
Now, a team that is going to be saying goodbye to their head coach, Oregon, things have kind of been a mess since Mariota and Chip Kelly left. Is there a certain area that you think that they should turn to find their new guy?
This is a very tough one. Oregon, obviously Mark Helfrich, he was there. He had the great run with Marcus Mariota, and then things kind of faded after that. But this is a very tough spot to fill. What do you do? Because Oregon has kind of built that system. Once Chip Kelly left, Mark Helfrich was there with the same system, so things didn't really change that much. But now with a new guy, does he bring in his new system? Is he going to be asked to use the system that has put Oregon on the map? Because let's be honest, these last 40 years, Oregon has emerged as a powerhouse in college football. They have not historically been a powerhouse, but they have been turned into one. So I think a big part of that has been the up-tempo of offense we have come to know and love. So it makes it a lot more difficult. Lane Kiffin has been a name I have heard being rumored there, and he is a guy who knows offense. Would he want to bring in his own? What will happen there? A lot of questions that Oregon needs to ask themselves. Money is no issue there, so it won't be a matter of that, but you have to get the right guy there, and I don't think they're going to want to run away from the identity that they have established.
Great point. Always about finding the right guy. Looks like Texas has found the right guy. The hottest name on the market, Tom Herman, kind of graduating, goes from Houston to big-time Texas. Longhorns might be back.
Look, we have talked so much about Todd Herman on this show. We love everything he's been able to do at Ohio State. When he moved on to Houston, you could see how big of an absence he was for Ohio State not having him there. Now he takes a huge job, and there's not jobs with as much pressure as this one right here. But I just think he's the kind of guy where offensively he's just so gifted with the way that he looks at the game differently. And I think that's exactly what Texas needs. Charlie Strong, he did what he could there. He was a very disciplinarian guy. But I think Todd Herman's very different in his approach to the game. Texas needs to be fun. They need to do things with their up-tempo. They need to be creative with play calling on offense. And I think that's exactly what Todd Herman's going to be able to do. He needs to get a quarterback there, obviously, because they haven't been able to find one there in a while. But I do think with his creative play calling on offense, with the way he does things differently, he's going to get things figured out there, and I think it's a great hire for them.
College football already giving us some stuff to look forward to for next season, but let's focus on this season. Let's close things out. Another pick'ems for us. There's not going to be many left here, so let's going to try to get as many right as possible. We'll start with the SEC Championship game. Nice and easy. Bama, Florida. Who do you got?
Yeah, like you said, nice and easy, like it was last season. It's just Alabama's next level when it comes to Florida. It's always a fun matchup because of the historic programs, but you just know that there's just a drop-off between Alabama and everyone else. And I think moving forward, the only thing you really want to watch out for with Alabama is their quarterback in Jalen Hurts. Will Jalen Hurts be able to really play his best football now? Because last year, we were on the same set, and I kept on reiterating and saying, I don't know if Jay Coker's going to blow it when it comes down to the big ones, and he didn't. He played his best football when it mattered most, and it wasn't always pretty, but he was great when he had to be. And I think Jalen Hurts, it will be kind of a similar thing. Very young player, has not really seen games of this magnitude yet in his career, but Nick Saban's quarterbacks have a track record of being as good as it gets when they have to be, and I think Jalen Hurts will just continue to carry on that legacy.
There's really not much to discuss here. This 2016 Bama team is on track to possibly be the greatest college football team of all time, and they have put to shame the rest of the SEC. They close that final chapter, move on to that Final Four with a win over Florida. Not a doubt in my mind. By the way, little side note, even if they lose, they're still in, probably at 1. Doesn't matter this game, but they will come away with a victory. We now look at the Big Ten championship game here. Possibly the biggest one on the slate with the biggest playoff implications is Wisconsin, Penn State. Who do you have?
Well, I think this is a tough one. When you look at it, if anyone had told you that Penn State would be playing in the Big Ten championship game at the end of the season, I think no one in the world would have bought into that. But they have really had a nice season. And look, from where they started to where they ended, they've improved game after game, and you have to give them a lot of credit. In a game like this, which I think is very tough, I am going to go with Wisconsin. I just look at the resumes. I look at a game on both their schedules. The Michigan game. Wisconsin just narrowly loses that game. They lose 14-7. Penn State gets the doors blown off of them in that game. And I think Wisconsin has shown you time and time again who they are, the way they've been able to gut it out against very good teams. Penn State, to me, this is still a little bit of a shock to the system. No one expected them to get to this point. And even them, I think, are surprised a little bit. So I have Wisconsin in this one in a very tight one.
This game can really, I think, teach people a lot of lessons here. One, conference championships don't mean anything because we got 2 Big Ten teams playing, and nobody thinks that either one of them are in the top 2 within that conference. I truly don't believe, regardless of who wins this game, deserves to be in the Final Four because both teams have lost to Michigan, which brings me to another point. Wisconsin sits here and have received no ridicule all season long. Their 2 most impressive outings were a loss to Ohio State and a loss to Michigan. They don't have 0 top 25 wins. We've ridiculed Penn State quite a bit. I got to give it to Penn State on this one. Wisconsin, I don't know how they snuck under the radar this whole time. I'm calling their number. I'm going with Penn State to win this game. It should be a good one, though. We also are going to look at the ACC Championship game. This one has a similar feel to the Alabama one. Clemson is kind of been above and beyond the rest of the ACC. They go against VTech. Do they come away with a victory?
Look, I think this is easy to look at this game and think, oh, Clemson's got it. It's a cakewalk. I don't think so by any means. I look at this Clemson team, and I've been saying it all year. There's something off about them. I look at them, and last year they're ranked number 2 in total offense the entire year. This season, they have consistently not been in that top 10. And for them to not hold that spot with the same quarterback and the same head coach, something is not clicking and something is not right. We have seen them really struggle in games, and Virginia Tech has flown under the radar like so many others have this year. But they're a tough out. There's no doubt about that. I'm going to go with Clemson here just because I think everyone in the world is going to go with Clemson, and it's probably the safer thing to do to go with them. But eventually Clemson, their world is going to come crashing down on them, and I just think this season for them, it's just been them losing their identity of who they are. And I think in a game like this, it's going to be very close. It's going to be very difficult, but they pull it out in the end.
I think this game kind of captures what the ACC has been all year. It's been a disappointment. Clemson, despite being right now third in the country, they just haven't been that good. Florida State fell off a cliff. Boy, oh boy, did Louisville decide to throw away the rest of the season once they saw the college committee was not letting them in any way, shape, or form. North Carolina, not that great of a year either. I just think for this year, Clemson is far beyond the best team in the ACC, but I don't know how much of a compliment that is. I do see them coming away with a win here. On to the Pac-12 championship. Probably my favorite game, honestly, for championship weekend. Washington, Colorado. Washington winning their in my eyes. Colorado, though, really has the opportunity to shake some things up here. Who gets this much-needed W?
This is by far the toughest game on the slate of all the championship games. And I think no matter how you try to cut this one, it's going to be a tough one. Colorado is very, very good. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They are very tough to play against. They have a great defense. But to me, I just think Washington, they've really rallied nicely since they had their loss in the regular season. I think because of that, the timing of their loss was great for them. And you could always debate the merits of losing a game, but losing a game where they did, I think, helped them re-energize, helped them refocus. And for a late push in a game like this, which is exactly what they need, I just look at the high-powered offense Washington has been able to have all year, and I think that helps enable them to get this win here.
I really like Washington in this one. I've liked them, honestly, all year. I think they caught a lot of people by surprise, but the both of us, they were on our radar. From the people that we listen to in the college football world, a lot of people were talking about Washington. We paid a bit closer attention. I don't think this caught us by as big a surprise as it did a lot of people. They have a defense that you can trust, and Jake Browning is really a Heisman sleeper. When you think about just the numbers he has and what he's done for a team that has a great shot to be in the college football playoffs at that 4 spot, I really like Washington. The final game we're going to close it out with, the Big 12 championship thing that
final
they
game of the
can't
season,
seem
whatever you want to
figure
call
out
it.
for whatever reason. We're going to have Oklahoma against Oklahoma State, a big-time rivalry. Oklahoma, maybe could they sneak in with a win here? But they have to get that win first. Will they?
Not this year. You know, last year we had them be able to get sneaky in there, but it's not going to happen this year. And I think, look, we always talk about it. The Big 12 needs to have a championship game. There's no debate about that because so many of these things at the end of the season come down to the little intricacies. And the committee has already established that they've taken that into account. Circumstances are a little different this year because of the Ohio State-Michigan situation in the Big 10, but regardless, they need a championship game. But in this one, I do have Oklahoma. I just think, look, they have played their best football at the end of the year these last 2 seasons. They've had a late push, which has enabled them. Baker Mayfield is playing very well at the end of the year like he has shown himself to be able to do. And I think because of that, Oklahoma gets the win in this big game.
I like Oklahoma. I'm not reading too much into it. Oklahoma State hasn't been that good for me. The College Football Committee has my eye on what they'll do if Oklahoma goes out there and blows the doors off Oklahoma State. They all year have been inconsistent, wild, and you know that there are teams that they keep close to their heart. Oklahoma came into the year at number 2. That feels ages ago. And you look at their losses, Houston was a tough out, and Ohio State's a great football team, of course. If Oklahoma goes out there and puts up a stellar performance and the rest of the teams underperform, I just wonder, does Baker Mayfield sneak in there again and then Bama blows their doors off by about 50 points in the first round of the college football playoffs? We'll see how it all shakes down. We'll make sure that we cover it all for you. Jersey Joe, Archino, Kevin Walsh. We'll see you next time in College Football Corner.